What's up guys, R33 GTR, and today we are going to be doing the Cambelt. That's what we're going to be doing today. So we are going to be fitting the Hitscare Cambelt. I've already took the cam cover off, which was one bolt top each side, one bolt bottom each side, one bolt in the middle by the cast sensor, the 3 bolts for the cast sensor, and then 3 little bolts that hold this pipe in place, and then that just lifts off. I'm currently at the moment in the process of polishing that, because obviously, if you remember, it was black painted, so I've stripped all the paint off, and I'm currently in the process of sanding and polishing that to try and get it to look all nice and shiny. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be draining the coolant off the car, and then removing the radiator, and then removing the fan, removing the power steering belt, and the alternator belt. Obviously there's no aircon because I've already taken that off. And then then we'll sort of go from there really. Get it lined up on the timing marks, get the pulley off, the bottom cover off. I think we're going to have to take the water pump pulley off as well, I think, because of the bottom casing, but we'll see. Yeah, so the top cam cover's off, as well as the water pipe that bolts across the front. Left the bottom hose for the radiator on. Obviously the radiator's out. It's over there. And now I've just been doing the viscous fan. So what I've done is slacked off the alternator so I could get the belt off, undone the 4 nuts here, so this now literally comes off, he says, like so. That brings that off, and then the pulley just slots straight off after. And the pulley off as well. Obviously the belt won't come off yet because I haven't done the power steering belt. There's your pulley. Now we can look at slacking the power steering pump off to get the power steering belt off. And then I'm going to line it all up on the timing marks, take the plug cover off, make sure it's on TDC. And then we can have a go at getting the dreaded cam pulley off, which everything I've read on the forums, it either comes off straight away and is awesome, or is an absolute nightmare, so we'll see which one I end up getting stuck with. Right, so, update. Strut braces off only to make it easier to get the plug cover off. Plug cover is off. Plug number 1 is out. The screwdriver is in there so I can see it going up and down, so I know when it's on TDC. The cams are lined up, as you can see there, with the punch on the pulley and the line, and the same on this side when you get down level. And then the crank pulley, don't for a second think I got it off with that ratchet, because I did not. I put it in 5th gear, handbrake on full, and I used that breaker bar, and it came off. Put my full weight on it, but it came off. So now I'm going to take the bolt out, hopefully get that pulley off. I've got a rubber mallet to try and get it off if it needs a bit of persuasion. And then once this is off, I can then get this back plate off. I can make sure that the crank gear is on its correct timing mark, which I assume it is because the front piston's on, number 1's on TDC, and these are lined up. So I just need to finish off getting this bolt out, get the pulley off, and then we'll get the bottom cover off as well. Tried with the rubber mallet, it's not having it. So rather than messing around, I've just gone out and bought a puller. So I'm now going to use the puller to get the pulley off, and then we can just get the bottom piece of the casing off then. And then as long as all the time marks line up, we can undo the idlers and that and get the belt off. For the sake of like 20 quid for a puller, it's so worth it. I mean, look how effortless it is. You can see it moving, coming off. Absolutely effortless. It's like just easing it straight off. Right, now the crank pulley's off, and I've got off the bottom cam cover, which is there. So you got your 3 bolts, that one, and that one. Oh,
So now you just make sure all the timing marks are lined up. See, the top ones still are. You can't quite see because of the sun. Check your bottom ones lined up, and then you can undo the tensioners and idlers and then slide the belt off. Right, so I made sure all the marks were lined up, including the little sort of like punching dot hole there with the casing, and then I literally just slid the belt off from the cams. So now change over the idlers and tensioners, and then put it all back on. Right, now just cracked this off, which is 17mm. And this should just come off. There we go. Right, so the belt is now on. As I said, we replaced the tensioner, the idler, replaced the tensioner and the spring. So basically when you put this back on, you will slide it on, hold with one finger the spring up above, and there's a little stud at the back which the peg of the spring sits against on the top of. And you put an Allen key in the hole there and you tension it right the way around so the belt's technically at its slackest. Slide the belt on over the crank first, up through here, then over the top of your cams. And then according to the workshop manual, you do 2 full revolutions of the engine. Check, make sure your timing marks are all still lined up. Then you crack this off. The spring then that you tensioned when you wound it round there goes back, takes the tension of the belt, and then you nip it back up and torque it to the correct settings, which I've done with both of those. And now it can just all start going back together now. I've put the bottom cam cover back on. I'm now going to put the pulley back on and the bolt back in. And then I'm actually going to put the top cover back on, because I did get the top cover off because I've been attempting to polish it up. But it was a bit fiddly getting to these bottom bolts with everything in place, so it's going to be a lot easier to put it back on now. So that's what I'm going to put on next, I think. And then we can start doing all the belts, the fan and all that sort of stuff, radiator, etc. So yeah. Right, so as you can see, I've put the cam cover back on, which I've polished, stripped all the paint off and polished up. I also put the backing piece back on that goes over the cam that the cam sensor bolts to. Put a new seal on because mine was knackered. And now I'm going to put bolt the pipe on. It goes back across here, the water pipe. Put the cast sensor back on, plug it in. And then, yeah, start putting the pulley on everything down the bottom as well. Right, the cam cover's back on, cam sensor's back on, wiring's back on, piping's back on, crank pulley's back on. Now I need to put the belts back on, and then belts back on ready, then put the fan in. And then put the belts on and tension them, I think. Then we're ready for the radiator. As you can see, the fan's back on, and now I'm going to put the radiator back in. That's the last step. Right, and the water's been put in. Turn the key. I did mark on the cam angle sensor whereabouts it was when I took it off. So I basically just copied it, put it back on, and yeah, just appears to need adjusting. Seems absolutely fine. So brake lifting's back on, the bonnet dampers fitted the other day, and yeah, it's purring away. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope if you're doing a Cambelt it was of some use to you. If you've got any questions or anything I didn't cover, it's quite difficult trying to do it on my own. Anything you can think of, just message me and I'll try and reply. Thanks a lot. Bye.